to Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and not only am I going to update you, but I also recently purchased some books at the Roast Office. I had Saturday off, but I don't like going to the Roast Office on Saturdays because since it's the weekend, a lot of people are there, so, I decided to wait until the day, and the month's almost over, so... And as long as I don't go to Books A Million and spend like $20 to $30 at Books A Million on a book, I'm good. Because, it's at the Roast Office, the most expensive is... Well, technically the most expensive is probably $6 although there are some books there that are $10, but they're special books. The regular prices are, the most expensive is, I think $4. So, if I get and I got 3 books, so I spent $12, and I think I'm okay. I'm pretty sure I'm okay. So, I'm just not gonna worry about it because it's gonna stress me out. But anyway, I'll tell you about those books in a minute. Let me update you guys. So just last night and a couple nights ago, a couple nights ago I finished Rebecca's Tale, by Sally Bowman. A really good book. If you liked the original Rebecca novel by Daphne du Maurier, then this might interest you. It's a sequel to Rebecca where there are old characters and new characters introduced. And there are people that are trying to figure out what happened to Rebecca all those years ago. What's the story? What's the truth about what happened to her? And trying to understand who she is as a person. And there's a character that might be connected with her in a surprising way. And the author stays true to the characters that from the original novel that are in this book that she reintroduces in this book, but she gives them more development. And we find out what happens to a lot of them and the remaining people that knew Rebecca. And we also, or knew of, I should say, also, because there are people like the narrator, Rebecca, that didn't know her in person. And also, we get her voice. We actually get her perspective on things. And, before, in the original novel, she's just this looming shadow that everyone glorifies. And everyone talks about how great she is and how charming she was and how good she could enrapture you. And how our narrator couldn't compete with Rebecca. And she's just in the background, haunting these characters. And in a way, in the sequel, she's still haunting them, but we actually hear from her. We learn her story. We learn her past, what happened to her, at least what the past the author has come up with through, I'm assuming, details that are in the book, Rebecca. It's beautifully written. I definitely enjoyed it, and I will talk about it more when I do my wrap up, because the month's not over yet, and I want to wait until beginning of May to do my wrap up for April. Also, I also just yesterday I also just finished Anne of Avonlea, which is also a sequel, but it is a direct sequel. Not a sequel that someone else wrote. Where we continue Anne's journey, and she gets to be a teacher. She ends up taking care of a lot of kids, even fostering some rambunctious. Well, only one of them is really rambunctious twin little toddlers. And it's once again fun and magical, and I really enjoyed reading the sequel, and I look forward to reading Anne of the Island next. And with Rebecca's Tale, I will talk about that one when I do my wrap up in the beginning of May. So I'm still working my way through When Elephants Dance. I don't know if this might be the book I'll be taking into the next month. It's still very tough and hard-hitting read. I like all the stories that the author puts in there, that all the the children characters are being told stories of the past. And it's one of those where you learn, where they kind of teach you a lesson about a life lesson in a way, how not to make the same mistakes these people in these stories made. And it's all just like, so like there's a lot going on and in this book, and it's a very dark story, and like I said, it makes me think of Anne Frank and what happened to the Jews when the Nazis basically, were putting the Jews in concentration camps or killing them. It's kind of a similar situation where these people the Japanese have showed up and are basically torturing these people and holding them, keeping them captive in a way. And not in a way, they are keeping them captive. They are prisoners in their own country, their own homeland. And I wish we had studied this part of history. I don't really remember. I don't know if they even mentioned this, what the Japanese did in my social studies class, but how they, the first time I heard about what happened to Korea and how Japan took over Korea was when I read Pachinko. I didn't even know that happened. So I hope other people read this one as well. I want you guys, if you're interested in learning about the Philippines, that is, you might just not be interested, and that's fine. But I wish more people would be. And I think this is a really good book. It might make you cry, but at times, and it's very intense, but I definitely want more people to read about, as I read these, I hope this gets other people on other people's TBRs, these books, as I read them and talk about them. And I don't know, I might do a separate review on this one. I don't know. I might just talk about it in the wrap up. And then, so I'm hoping to get done within the next couple days, or maybe even tonight, because it's not that long, and the chapters are not that long, is Pocahontas and Captain John Smith, the story of the Virginia colony. And from what people have said on Goodreads, this does come from a series of books. It makes me think of the Illustrated Classic books, those hardback books. They have white spines, and you can sometimes get them at Michael's. They're, kid versions of classics, adult classics. We did have one that we still have. Most of ours we got rid of, but we have one left, actually Treasure Island, but it's being used for something. And I believe my sister and brother-in-law have a bunch of them at their house. No, I don't think they're ours, though. I think they're, because they have a bunch of ones that we didn't have. I think they're, probably my brother-in-law's books, So I hope, and I think that'll be a good starting place to get, Harrison into classics, my nephew. And I think this also would be a good book for him to read. It's very easy reading. I don't think I'm the target audience. It's, I think these are more like kid versions of a kid nonfiction book. Because the writing is very simple and very, just straight to the point and not getting into too much detail, but information so a kid can know the history or have some idea of it. It does kind of sugarcoat things a little bit, and it does focus more on the colonist and kind of not exactly, showing the, too much of detail on the terrible things that they did to the Native Americans. And I believe this is an older book, so they still refer to them as Indians, even though technically the correct term is Native Americans. Now, I only try to make sure I say Native Americans because, you have India, they're called Indians. They're completely different people from these people, the original natives of America. And also, I feel like it is important to, call them by, what they really are, which is Native Americans. Some people may disagree with that, but anyway, I think it's informative enough, but I do think, I'm also not a parent, and so I'm not an expert on what but like I said, the way it's written, it feels like it's more for kids writing style. And I mean, there were some things in this book that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that Captain John Smith, before he came here, he was held captive because they were worried that he would try to kill, like, that he wanted to be in charge, so that he would kill, and that he might kill all the other counselors that are trying to run the colony and everything. And he, in Reckless not, like, in the Disney movie, he's very, he's the main antagonist. He's a prominent villain, but in this one, he's not really in it that much. Like, he's mentioned, of course, he's an important player, but it's not like, I mean, like, John Smith is, he doesn't have competition. Like, he's not a threat to John Smith necessarily. But yeah, so I definitely learned some. So I've learned some things. It does have drawings and sketches in the book to show you. Some of the pictures look kind of silly though. And John Smith's he's definitely more attractive in the Disney movie, that's for sure. He's not all that pretty looking. And they don't, have the whole romance. Although John Smith, according to this, he does think about Pocahontas for a second, is considering taking her for a wife. But in the end, I don't think I mean, I haven't gone to the end, but I don't, obviously they're not going to focus on that. They're not going to Disneyfy, do this romance thing they had in the Disney movie. And she is her actual age, only like 15 or something, or 15 or 14. But yeah, I definitely think this is a good place to start for a kid, just to give them an idea of the history, like, and give them enough information so that they know about it, before they learned about it in school. I mean, I've gone back and forth and telling, my sister bought this for me as a gift, as a Christmas gift. And, obviously I'm reading it and I like it. I appreciate it. But I might, or at least what I will probably do is at least let my sister know about this and how I think it would be great for Harrison and Daniel in the future. And Charlie girl. But, like, it's definitely a good place to start. At least that's what I think. Also, I did start reading. I came back to reading The Eyes of the Dragon. It definitely reads like YA with the writing, how Stephen King wrote this book. Like, he kind of does a little bit more explaining things rather than showing things, and it kind of reads like a fairy tale in a way, like, which I think this is meant to be like a fairy tale, with just the way he tells the story. And I do, and this was originally, when he first read this book, was dedicated to his daughter when she was a young girl. So, and it might actually say the dedication in the book. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it says, actually it's not just for, he also said, this is a story for my great friend Ben Straub and for my daughter Naomi King. Which, I'm wondering, is that the author that he writes a lot of his books with? Or at least he wrote The Talisman and Black Castle? Or The Dark Castle? I think it's called Black Castle, something like that. The guy's name was it Peter? I don't remember. But I know this was probably dedicated to his daughter, because he wanted to write something that she could read. But it does introduce us to Randall Flagg, who plays one of his reoccurring antagonists in his multiverse. But I will have to read. Once I'm done with it, I'm going to see if Mike from Mike's Book Reviews has a review on this one, and see what he says, and maybe see if there's any nods to any of the little little things that he puts in that are nods to the multiverse and all that. But anyway, so I haven't read a lot. Just started reading a little bit of it again. We have the mom has died, the queen has died, and you have Peter and Thomas, and Flag is like, wants Thomas to be king because he's pliable like his dad will be, like his dad is. And I do not trust Flag. I mean, which you're not supposed to. Flag is a creepy dude and a little too ambitious for my liking. But anyway, so yeah, obviously I don't have a lot to say on this book, but I'm gonna read more later. At least, I have to go back to work tomorrow, but I will have 2 days off coming up. One because of doctor's appointments, and then the other one is they just gave me that day off. They just ended up giving me that day off. Okay, now let's talk about what I got at the roast office today, other than coffee and my lunch. I love the Southern BLT. It's one of my favorite sandwiches that I've had so far there. I've had it like 2 or 3 times now, I think. Maybe only twice. Okay, so first we have Umberto Eco's Full Cut Pendulum, and this is the same author who wrote The Name of the Rose, which I'm not finished with. I need to finish that, which actually that should be, having bought this book, hopefully that's a motivator. Now, it's not the Umberto Eco book that I heard about on Tristan and the Classics that I wanted to read, but I kept looking at this book every time I would go, and every time I go to the roast office, and it's still there, so I decided to buy it. This, on Goodreads, a lot of people compared it to when I was, like, that's what I do. I go on Goodreads and read reviews if I'm not sure if I want to buy a book. And that's usually only at, the roast office, so. I mean, occasionally, every so often, on a rare occasion, I'll do that at Books A Million. But most of the time when I go to Books A Million, I know what I want to get. Because it's more expensive there, so if I'm going there, I don't want to, go, browsing. I want to get a book that I definitely know I'm going to enjoy. So I looked at Goodreads and read the reviews. I always read the 3-star reviews because they're kind of the middle ground where those reviews will talk about the good and the bad of it, like why they enjoyed it and why they didn't, aspects that they didn't enjoy. So I think like reading those reviews is the safest for me to make a fair decision. And some of those reviews said that they, like, their first sentence of the review was, "This is what Dan Brown wishes he could write like." So this has been compared to Dan Brown. And it sounds like it does sound like a Dan Brown plot. I'm going to read the back. 3 clever editors who have spent altogether too much time reviewing crackpot manuscripts on the occult by fanatics and dilettantes. I've seen this word before so many times, but I never knew. I don't know how to say it. I need to ask my dad how to say it, that word. Decide to have a little fun. They're inspired by an extraordinary fable they heard years before from a suspiciously natty colonel who claimed to know of a mystic source of power greater than atomic energy. On a lark, the editors begin randomly feeding historic bits of knowledge into an incredible computer capable of inventing connections between all their entries. What they believe they're creating is a long, lazy game until the game starts taking over. Here is the incredible journey of thought and history, memory and fantasy. A tour de force as enthralling as anything Umberto Eco indeed anyone has ever devised. And here's some blurbs. Let's see if these blurbs actually tell me anything. At the top it has endlessly diverting, even more intricate and absorbing than it has his international bestseller, The Name of the Rose. So some people say it might be even better than The Name of the Rose. It's diverting, and it says it's more intricate and absorbing than The Name of the Rose. So that one tells me a little bit. An intellectual adventure story as sensational and thrilling and packed with arcana as Raiders of the Lost Ark or the Count of Monte Cristo. So this one compares it to Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Count of Monte Cristo. As it's an adventure story, it's sensational, it's thrilling, and packed with magic. Okay, so that tells me something. And then, as brilliant and as quirky as the name of the rose, as mischievous and wine-raging, a virtuoso in performance. So it's brilliant. Suppose they say it's brilliant and it's quirky. Although brilliant, I think that's hard to pin down if that really tells you anything about something. Quirky. It's a quirky read. And again, comparing to the name of the rose. And I guess that's his most famous book, the one that everybody knows about. So that's probably why. A lot of these two of these blurbs compare it to that. It's mischievous and wide-ranging. So that sounds intriguing and exciting. So there's that. And then the last two books. Okay, I don't know why, but I really like these editions of these classics. These New York. I don't know what the RB stands for. But I would have 5 of these now, but I decided to donate, what is it called? Anglo-Saxon Attitudes. I did decide to donate that one. But that also was in this particular edition that I have here. This New York RB. I need to look that up, see what that company is. But anyway, first is a more famous classic, a well-known classic, which has several volumes with it. This is the first volume. It's Swann's Way by Marcel Proust. And I've recently been hearing a lot about this. And for me, books like this that I hear so much about, I want to read them because you hear so much about them and they're always on those must-read lists. And yes, I probably shouldn't pay attention to those, but sometimes it's kind of fun to look at those and to see which of the books on those lists you've actually read. And if you agree with those lists that it's worth the read. But it's like, when I see those lists, for me, the books on those lists are, some of them, I mean, unless the plot just is nothing of interest to me, they always sound intriguing, the books on those lists. And it's like, I want to know what these books have to offer. Are they really worth it? Will I agree that they're a must-read? That's why I like, and it's kind of exciting to be, and yes, there's a little factor of, to be able to say, oh, I read Proust. And but I also want to be able to say that not just that I read it, but I read it and completed it, and that I actually enjoyed it. And I can see why everyone likes it, and the appeal of it, and why it's so famous, and why, why it has had such an impact on the reading community. And just, like, academics in general. That's why I want to read, like, these books that are, like, works by Proust. But I do get, or James Joyce's Ulysses, or that other book, that other well-known book, The Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, also by James Joyce, because, they always, there's a reason that these books are on this list, even if you don't feel the same way. There are people out there who do think these books are worth it, and there's something special, and, they're academically enlightening. So I always, for me, I want to read those books and see what they have to offer. And, I'm not going to, now if I end up not loving them, then I will DNF them. But let me read the back in case you don't know anything about Swann's Way. Swann's Way, the first of 7 volumes. So there's 7 books. So if I like it, I could, have 6 more books to read. That constitutes Marcel Proust's life work. In the Search of Lost Time introduces the larger themes of the whole work, while standing on its own as a brilliant evocation of childhood, hopeless love, and the French Belle Epoque. So it should be it says on this description that it's a book that could be read as standalone, so hopefully that's true. When we first encounter Proust's narrator in middle age, consumed with regret for his misspent life, suddenly he is back in the past, seized by memories of childhood. His clinging attachment to his mother, his dread of his father, his summers in the country, and the 2 walks his family was in habit of taking, one by an aristocratic estate, the other by a certain Charles Swann, to whom a mystery was attached. A child's world and the world of adults. The child struggles to imagine spread out before us, while Proust's pages teem with an instant in puzzlement, pathos, and humor. The novel takes a further step backwards to tell the story of Swann's infatuation with the courtesan Odette. Swann, a man about town and familiar of royalty, is reduced to walking after midnight, forlorn as a child, awaiting a good-night kiss. Okay, and here it talks about the translator, because this is French. Proust is a French author. So here's the translator, James Grieve, began his career translating Proust in the early 1970s, driven by his dismay at how many readers recoiled from what they imagined to be the difficulty of Proust's work. And his translation of Swann's Way brings out the book's fluency and speed, as no other version does. It offers an unequaled introduction to incomparably absorbing work of art. The good news, at least, is quotes. There are some of these authors that I want to read, like James Joyce, where they're writing, they don't use quotes in their dialogue, and that is very confusing too, and I still don't know why. And I'm going to ask again, is there anyone that watches my channel that understands that can explain what the value is of not using quotes when you're doing dialogue? Is it because we don't use quotes when we speak? Which, yeah, we don't write, and we're not always writing when we're talking, so of course we're not quoting ourselves or doing this all day whenever we speak. I guess they're trying, authors that don't use quotes are trying to do authentic conversations. I think there was something about that when I read people talk about these authors that do that, where they don't use what I really should do is just, because I'm thinking about it now, I should start reading this now. I should just pick this up and read it now before I lose interest. Not like lose interest per se, but get distracted by other books that I have. But I also need to get back to Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. Need to finish that one. So, and in May I want to actually participate in reading Asian works. Asian literature, especially since there's Asian in me. So I feel like in my project about reading all this Filipino literature or nonfiction, but anyway, I am apprehensive about reading this. Like I said, this is one of those books that's been put on the must-read list. Books that, read before you die, or books that are very important, and that makes them intimidating. It makes you feel like, oh, I can't read that, or oh, I have to read this book. But like I said, for me, it's more, I just hear so much about these books, and I'm like, I want to see what the fuss is about. I want to try it for myself and see if I can enjoy it and appreciate it, and be one of those people who can, one of those literary snobs that says, I read Proust and I loved it. And don't you you can see the whatever things that people like that say when they discuss literature, and all those snobs that are all have their noses in the air and talk about these authors and use all these huge words that I don't always understand. But yeah, I am excited. At least for right now, I'm excited about Swann's Way. I'm nervous, but I am excited. There's a date in here. So I wonder if this was recently was this, like, because this wasn't, it was only a few months, November 2023, so it was only November of last year, so I don't know what that date means. Did they, they had the book and decided to donate it? And that, or maybe they marked it, that's when they received the book? Like, have they been trying to mark when they receive books, when they see donations? I don't know. So the last one is another one of those NRB classics, which I have never heard of. That's the other thing I want to try and read, some of these classics that aren't as well known. In that we have Bell Chamber by Howard Sturgis. And this was another one that seemed to have mixed reviews, or like people have mixed opinions on the 3-star reviews, which, I mean, I guess it's like, as I explained, I feel like that's the, that's why I like reading those, because they kind of give a varied account, But I don't know anything about this plot, so I'm going to read the back again. Okay, Charles Edwin William Augustus Chambers, Marquis and Earl of Belchamber, Viscount Charmington, and Baron St. Edmunds and Chambers, known familiarly as Saintly, is a scion of the ancient English aristocratic family. Behind him stretches a rose gallery of picturesque upper-crust scoundrels, but he is uninterested in riding to the hounds or drinking or whoring in the great tradition of his forebears, and though he admires his tough-minded, puritanical Scottish mother, he lacks her unrelenting moral self-assurance. Saintly is instead a sensitive soul, physically delicate, sexually timid, intellectually inclined, utterly honest, and thoroughly decent, but constitutionally incapable of asserting himself. When it comes to assuming the responsibilities of his inheritance, to managing his feckless younger brother Albert, who fathoming his sly cousin Clyde, and above all, the essential business of marrying and continuing the family line, Saintly hasn't a prayer. And this is about the author. Howard Sturgis, a Bostonian who lived most of his life in England, was a close friend of Henry James and Edith Wharton. Which actually, on people's reviews, they mention that he's friends with them, and that it's funny, they said that, there's tons of people compare two things, and are two people that are like, if those two were married, then this would be their love child. And that's what they do. Some of the people say, if this is the love child of Henry James and Edith Wharton. And he's the author of 3 novels. A brilliant, frequently hilarious satire of the English ruling class, is also a powerful lament for individualism destroys innocence deceived. A book that, though a failure in its day, made a powerful and lasting impression on E.M. Forster. Made an impression of Forster, whose thoughtful appreciation is included in this new edition. Deeply felt and keenly intelligent, Belchamber is a novel in the great English literature and American tradition that looks forward to such exceptional 20th century masterpieces as Anthony Powell's A Dance to the Music of Time and L.P. Hartley's The Go-Between, which I have now, A Dance to the Music of Time. And this sounded like, and I feel like it sounds like by the description of the main character that I feel like he can be a relatable character, because there are a lot of people that just are kind of not exciting people and just want to live their life and just hang out at home. Like, I do feel like there are people out there that are like that. But then, of course, we as readers or watchers, in the case of, books, in the case of movies and TV shows, want characters that are dysfunctional. We are more compelled to watch characters that just have a lot of faults and are selfish people, and just, like, we can't help but thirst for those kinds of characters. We are intrigued by them. We want, so, like, and some of the reviews did hint that this character is not the most exciting, and they're kind of using the B word here, boring. But I think this would be very intriguing. And like I said, I really like these editions. And the photographic covers and everything. So there you have it. We have we have Swan's Way by Proust. The Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco, and Bell Chamber by Howard Sturgis. Which I want to say I might have heard that name before today. I might have heard that name before. But anyway, so that's what's going on with my reading. I still haven't continued my reread of Count of Monte Cristo. I have been meaning to, and I will do it, but I always feel like, I feel guilty because I have so many other books that I haven't picked up yet, that I haven't read yet, that I need to read. So I will get back to, Monte Cristo for a reread soon at some point. Anyway, how is everyone else's reading going? I hope it's going well. Have you recently borrowed books from the library or purchased any books? I would love to know what those are if you have. I hope you are enjoying your reading as always, and just enjoying life in general. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already and you're interested in subscribing to my channel. And if you want to share, even if you haven't bought any books recently or bought any books, you can tell me what you are currently reading in the comments below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was a good video. And click the bell notification if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!